Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Kiana Canada, and welcome back. Welcome back. I know I've been away for about a week or two, and if you have been following my story, you understand that some cyber hackers had locked me out of my YouTube account. So I wasn't able to get into the account for about a week, and they changed the passwords. And so now I'm back into the account and I'm able to bring more videos to you. Before we get into today's topic, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Your likes, your shares, and all the subscribers to this channel mean a lot to me. What it does is it pushes videos like this up in the algorithm. It tells the algorithm that videos like this are important, but we must be reminded that just because videos like this are not pushed up in the algorithm does not mean that these videos are not important. I also have a short announcement to make, and it has to do with cyber intimidation. And so I get the sense that the people that are behind these computers that are hacking into my social media accounts are doing so because they can't compete on a level playing field. So, for example, if I am arguing, not necessarily arguing because, I'm just giving commentary, but if I'm talking about a particular political issue and I find that intelligence agencies or the cyber hackers that are working in concert with these intelligence agencies are actually locking me out of my accounts, that means that they cannot compete with the message that I'm bringing. So I would like to extend or take this time to actually extend the opportunity once more to anyone that disagrees with me that you have the opportunity to come on the Kiana Canada show and have a discussion about those topics that you feel that I may be getting wrong, that you feel that I don't know enough about, or you want to challenge me on. That is actually the best way to counter argue and to challenge opinions. We are, it's important for us to keep a marketplace of ideas and, to battle this in the marketplace of ideas and may the best idea win. It's unfortunate where one person is putting a particular position on the table, and because the opponent does not like that position, what they're doing is actually they're trashing the table and throwing everything off the table. And that's exactly what they do when they actually take speech offline or when they hack into accounts to stop a person from being able to voice their opinions on political issues. So now that we have said that, ladies and gentlemen, if you've been following the headlines in the United States, you understand quite clearly that TikTok is going through quite well, it's going through some changes, right? So initially, under the Trump administration, TikTok was going through a period of repression, so to speak. And Donald Trump was trying to get TikTok to divest, and that didn't quite happen. And so, fast forward when Biden was elected and became president, the same thing happened. And so, under the Biden administration, Biden attempted to try and get TikTok to divest. And so, essentially, what the Biden administration is asking TikTok to do is to sell its shares and to sell, its part, its ownership, so those shares in the United States to an American business owner, or to go dark, to essentially, this app is not going to be operating in the United States. But, ladies and gentlemen, we see that that did not work well, right? For example, what happened is that TikTok refused to divest, and put up some very strong arguments as to why that position was, right? Howsoever, we understand that the U.S. Supreme Court rejected those arguments and sided with the briefs of the Biden administration. And so the U.S. Supreme Court says that this app, in its opinion, they feel that this app is a gateway to threats to national security, and that the Biden administration could actually ban the app. And so I think it was last Saturday, or yeah, so what day was that? On the 19th, on Sunday. Uh, I think it was like Saturday evening and Sunday morning, TikTok went dark. And so the app was unusable for TikTok users. And what essentially happened is that whenever if you were a user of TikTok and you went to open the app, what would happen is there would be a message that would come up and say that it's unavailable and that they're waiting on Trump to follow through on his agreement to save the app. Now, Trump did say that he was looking into this particular situation. We are actually going to be going over that executive order in this podcast. And we're going to be talking a little bit about that. If you haven't already, you should go ahead and get yourself a drink. If you want to get a cocktail, if you want to get, water, some tea, a coffee, anything that you can to kind of relax and to get into this discussion. This is probably going to be a long discussion because we are actually going to go through that entire executive order and read it so we can both understand it together. Now, I skimmed it last night, but I actually did not read it. And so we're going to do that today. Okay, so the executive order is titled Application of Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act to TikTok. And it starts by saying that essentially they're saying that the foreign adversary controlled applications, specifically those operated by TikTok and any other subsidiary of its China-based parent company, ByteDance Ltd, on national security grounds. So essentially, this executive order is alleging that it is attempting to protect Americans from this Chinese-based application, which they feel is a conduit for, for American data to be siphoned from the app and into the arms of China. Now, we are going to get into those arguments later on, but let's go ahead and get into this. It says Section 2 of the Act prohibits entities from distributing, maintaining, or updating certain defined foreign adversary-controlled applications within the territory of the United States by providing A, services for such distribution, maintenance, or updates by means of an online mobile application, stored or other marketplace, or B, internet hosting services to enable the distribution, maintenance, or updating of such applications. Section 2G of the Act defines foreign adversary controlled application to include websites, desktop applications, mobile applications, and augmented or immersive technology applications operated directly or indirectly by ByteDance Ltd or TikTok. Under Section 2A of the Act, the prohibitions of the Act with respect to those entities became effective on January 19th, 2025. And so this is what I think Trump is saying. I think it's his administration, because it's using, the pronoun I. So it's saying, I have the unique constitutional responsibility for the national security of the United States, the conduct of foreign policy, and other vital executive functions. To fulfill those responsibilities, I intend to consult with my advisors, including the heads of relevant departments and agencies of national security concerns posed by TikTok, and to pursue a resolution that protects national security while saving platforms used by 170 million Americans. Now, this executive order goes on to say that Trump's administration must also review sensitive intelligence related to those concerns and evaluate the sufficiency of mitigation measures TikTok has taken up to date. Now, as you can see, that's just the minutia of this executive order. That's not really saying really anything substantial. There's not any teeth to this executive order. And so we're going to go on. The unfortunate timing of Section 2A of the Act on one day before Trump took office as the 47th president of the United States interferes with his ability, allegedly, to assess the national security and foreign policy implications of the Act prohibitions before they take effect. The timing also interferes with Trump's allegedly his ability to negotiate a resolution to avoid an abrupt shutdown of the TikTok platform while addressing national security concerns. Accordingly, Trump is what he's doing is he's instructing the Attorney General not to take any action to enforce the act for a period of 75 days from the 20th, to allow the administration the opportunity to determine the appropriate course forward in an orderly way to protect national security while avoiding any abrupt shutdown of communication platforms used by millions of Americans. So essentially, if you remember, what happened was Biden said that he was not going to take any action. He was not going to enforce the TikTok ban because, of course, it was only 24 hours until he left office. So it wouldn't make sense for him to enforce something that could actually be overturned by the Trump administration. And now that the Trump administration has come into office, the Trump administration is saying, wait a minute, that they need 75 days to evaluate to see if there is a legitimate national security concern with this particular app, TikTok. And if you remember, there is a lot of people that are on TikTok, Trump including himself. He actually campaigned on TikTok. Vivek Ramaswamy campaigned on TikTok. I'm not really sure, like I don't have TikTok. Like I used to have it, but I don't have it anymore. And so I'm unable to see exactly like who all is on the app. But what I do know is that I've actually heard interviews with these people on the right stating that they are, that they've put their content on the app and that they felt that this app was not a threat to national security. Okay, so let's continue. So Section 2, action. So President Trump states that he is ordering the Attorney General not to take any action on behalf of the United States to enforce the act for 75 days from the date of this particular executive order. And he wants an opportunity to determine the appropriate course of action with respect to TikTok. So he further states that during this period that the Department of Justice shall take no action to enforce the act or impose any penalties against any entity for any noncompliance with the act. Okay, so what does that mean? So essentially what that means is that if TikTok decides to continue to run within the United States of America, then they can't be held responsible. There should not be any penalties that are being put on the owners of TikTok. And so now TikTok is actually alive again. It's no longer going dark. It's alive. It's running. Everybody's able to use it. And so now they can't be penalized because of this executive order. This executive order actually freezes those actions. let's continue. So, in light of this direction, even after expiration expiration of the above specified period, the Department of Justice shall not take any action to enforce the act or impose any penalties against any entity for any conduct that occurred during the above specified period or any period prior to the issuance of this order, including the period of time from January 19, 2025 to the signing of the order. Now, I'm going to go into, let's see, is there anything else in this executive order? So there's no other information that I can see within the executive order that is pertinent to this conversation, but let's go ahead and get into what I think is going to happen. Ladies and gentlemen, what I think is going to happen is that the Trump administration is really going to try and get TikTok to divest and get TikTok to sell. As you know, Trump is putting these policies out into the ether where, he wants social media companies and foreign adversaries and allies to fall in line with his policies. And so it only makes sense that I think that what is going to happen, and I'm not saying that I agree with this. I'm not saying that I agree with this, but what I think is going to happen, ladies and gentlemen, is that Trump is going to follow through on that path that Biden was going on to try and get TikTok to sell the its shares or its portion, its American portion. Will that happen? That's interesting, right? That's a question that we all want to know. And my answer to that is I don't think that TikTok is going to want to do that. And so what America wants is to be able to control the algorithm, right? And so what is it about TikTok's algorithm that's different from Meta's algorithm and different from all the other social media apps algorithm? So what's different, ladies and gentlemen, is that TikTok's algorithm is uniquely positioned where any person, can go viral. You don't have to have tons of millions of, followers. You don't have to have like a large social media platform. You can just be an everyday person. And if your content is reaching enough people, it may go viral. And that's quite different from the American apps, such as Meta, and of course, some of these other apps, because these other apps they have their algorithm, uh, tailored to where only certain people can go viral. And so it's kind of like these algorithms within the United States are choosing like whose content should be heard, whose content shouldn't be heard, whose content should be seen, whose content should not be seen. And ladies and gentlemen, in my personal opinion, the way these algorithms are designed in the United States is a clear violation of Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And so the reason why this is a clear violation of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, ladies and gentlemen, is because everyone has the right to freedom of expression, has the right to impart information, to receive information, and to put out information. And when states choose what information can reach other communities, reach other people on the app, and when they censor information, that is a clear violation of human rights. And we have seen this happen extensively. So, for example, you can go online and you can see, ladies and gentlemen, that certain people will go viral even if their content so in the United States, you can just Google it, and sometimes like you'll have like some of these social media influencers, they're going viral and nobody is really understanding why. And in some cases you can see where like on Meta certain people are actually going viral. Their message is going viral, but other people message is not going viral. They don't have an equal opportunity to go viral. This is deeply disturbing in my personal opinion. And so, do I think that TikTok should divest? Do I think that TikTok should sell? No, because basically it's a unique algorithm. Its algorithm is very unique, and it shouldn't. Essentially, what will happen is that if it sells to the United States of America, its algorithm will be just like Meta or any other social media app. And when that happens, it's no longer going to be interesting anymore. Like people will still flock to the app, people still will upload content to the app, but it's not going to be what it is now. And that's what people really enjoy about the app is because I think look at it this way. What I think TikTok does is TikTok is an equal opportunity employer. It gives everyone an opportunity, a chance to be employed on the platform and to work equally, right? And to put out content equally. And if your content is touching someone's heartstrings, or excuse me, pulling at someone's heartstrings, then that content may go viral. But unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, what these other apps in the United States are is it is kind of discriminatory. And so you might not go viral on a Meta app. Your content may be censored on a Meta app. And so it's quite unfortunate. And ladies and gentlemen, when we think about it clearly, let's really contemplate on this. And this is me, this is not my having sympathies for foreign adversaries. This is not my uh, aiding and abetting or giving aid and comfort to a foreign adversary. This is my speaking truth to power, essentially. That's what I'm doing is I'm speaking truth to power on this particular topic. Now let's look at this quite reasonably. You have an app that is not American made, and it's an app that is giving the everyday person, the reasonable man, right? The reasonable woman, an opportunity to go viral, the opportunity to be famous, or the opportunity to gain a lot of likes and shares, or to have their content shared, to receive a lot of the likes, and to really um, move up in the social media world. Whereas in the United States, this is only gifted to a select few people. And this select few people is often people who have a lot of money. And so in the United States of America, most of the people that are going viral are persons that are very wealthy on these apps, such as, on YouTube and on Meta. These algorithms are really marketed toward the wealthy. And we seen that right at the inauguration where we seen a lot of the tech billionaires on the front row. And that was testament to us, right? It was so basically now we're seeing it before our eyes that there is money that is in politics, right? And what I mean is that money is influencing politics. And and to be truthful, it always has. I mean, we look back at the case Citizens United, and that case is letting us know that like corporations, they are looked at as people. They're able to influence decisions in elections. And so corporations now in the United States have a lot of political power. And so, what I think is unfortunate, ladies and gentlemen, from a human rights perspective, is that the apps in the United States are censoring content, and they want to censor a foreign app, namely TikTok, because it's not censoring content. Now, there's a ruse. Now, the ruse, ladies and gentlemen, the ruse is that allegedly that TikTok is that China is after our data, it's looking for our data, it's trying to take our data, right? And American citizens don't believe that. American citizens are saying, wait a minute, we've seen our own nation dabbling, not only censoring our speech, but monitoring our content and taking our data. And so if you're doing it, if our own country is doing it, you know, do we believe that another country is trying to do the same thing? Like our country is willingly doing it and putting it out there in the public for everyone to see. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm not talking about like sensitive, like excuse me, like classified information, but there is some information that is being made public in the United States that you won't see made public in other countries, and we'll get to that in another video. But what happened when TikTok went dark, and even before it went dark? Well, what you saw Americans flocking to a foreign app, and that app was Red Note. And I think that this shows, well, it should show the United States that even if this is not the right way to go. You can't bully Americans into making decisions about their freedoms. And so I think Americans saw this as an effort from the US government, an effort to bully them into making a decision about what they felt was, their freedom of expression, their freedom to choose, autonomy. And I think most Americans felt like, as autonomous human beings, that was being taken away from them, that they didn't have the freedom to choose. And when that choice was taken away, what happened? Americans disagreed with the government and say, okay, well, if you're deciding that you want to censor speech by taking away this app, then what Americans decided to do is go on another app that was even more, yeah, that was more Chinese oriented, right? And now the TikTok app has been restored, so I think that a lot of Americans are relieved, right? So now that there's relief that TikTok is restored, they don't really have to learn this new app that is really marketed toward Chinese users. They don't have to learn it. And two, they don't have to actually go through this battle with the US government. Now, this is going to be an interesting battle between TikTok and the Trump administration. I don't think that this is yet over. I don't think that this is going to be an easy way out for TikTok. And even though Trump administration is giving TikTok 75 days to make a decision, essentially ByteDance did not want to sell its portion. And I don't think it's going to sell even under the Trump administration. I think it's going to hold out. And what I think essentially is going to happen is that it is probably going to go dark when those 75 days are over. Now, I could be wrong. I don't proclaim to be right on everything, but just there's a pattern and a practice, right? So there was this whole period of time where the Biden administration was attempting to get TikTok to divest from ByteDance and to sell its portion to an American, and so an American business, and TikTok declined to do that. And what it essentially decided to do, ladies and gentlemen, is it decided to, hold the line. And when it held the line, that case went to the U.S. Supreme Court. The U.S. Supreme Court uh, accepted the government's position. And when that happened, then TikTok decided it went dark on that Sunday, that it was going to go dark. And so I don't think much is going to change. I can't see that TikTok would ever consider giving up this algorithm. Like, this is like a proprietary, what is it? It's intellectual property, right? This algorithm is intellectual property. And why would someone give up this unique algorithm that is actually just going to be used in a way to suppress dissent, or be used in a way that is not going to be at its fullest, right? And so what I think now is going to happen is or the question that I raise is TikTok going to consider that? Because right now the algorithm is operating the way that it should. It's operating fairly, I think. From what I get a consensus, so there's a consensus that the app is operating fairly. So when I'm looking online and I'm hearing everyone speak about it, and I'm listening to interviews and discussions about TikTok, I get the sense that the app is operating fairly, and that is how it should operate. Now, if the app is sold to the United States, then that is only going to elevate certain voices, and the app is going to be then operating unfairly. So now speech is going to be suppressed. Remember, you had Mark Zuckerberg state that when Trump was when he won the presidency, Mark Zuckerberg said, "Oh no, like, I'm not going to be suppressing any speech anymore." And ladies and gentlemen, let me translate that for you. Mark Zuckerberg is still going to be suppressing speech, but it's not going to be right-wing speech. And this is what we have to start to understand, ladies and gentlemen. Under the Biden administration, under the Democrats, the favorites of the Democrats, their speech is elevated in the algorithm. Under the Republicans, their favorites are elevated in the algorithm. That's just in the nature of politics. And so you have the voices, such as, like, for example, under the Democrats, you have like the Brian Tyler Cohens, you have the David Pacmans, you have the Don Lemons. You have these voices elevated up in the algorithm under the Biden administration, and more voices as well, right? Under the administration of Trump, you have all these right-wing voices that are actually elevated up in the algorithm. And this is the problem, is because not everyone gets a fair opportunity to have their voice heard on these platforms. And what I think should happen, ladies and gentlemen, is that essentially this should be a marketplace of ideas. Think about a marketplace, right? You should go in a marketplace and you should choose what you want to listen to. Do you remember, like, I'm older than most of you, maybe most of you that are listening to this. I don't know. Maybe some of you are around my age. Remember when there used to be CD stores and like cassette tape stores. You could go in and actually buy a CD. Like they used to have I remember that. Like you can go in and you can go in a music store and buy these CDs and these cassette tapes, right? It should be that way with ideas on the internet, such as, on YouTube. You should be able to buy or subscribe to what you want to subscribe. And the state shouldn't censor certain content because they dislike it. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm not talking about heinous content. I'm not talking about content that is like uh immoral or deplorable, etc. Like I'm specifically talking about where the content is within the parameters of the law. It does not, it's not outside the confines or the outside the margins of the law. That content should be on the shelves for anyone to consume. And if people don't want to consume it, they don't want to consume that content, right? But the state shouldn't say, okay, well, we don't like it that you are talking about us. And so, because you're talking about us, we're going to remove your content from the algorithm and we're going to throttle your content. We are going to shadow ban your content. It should not be that way. And I'm seeing too much of that, not only in the United States, but I'm seeing that happen in Europe as well. And that is deeply disturbing to me as a human rights defender. Deeply disturbing to me. So we must be reminded that Article 19 says that everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression. This right includes freedom to hold opinions without interference and to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas through any media and regardless of frontier. So what does that mean? Regardless of where the content is stored, right? So if I am in Belfast and I want to listen to content that's in the United States, I should be able to listen to that content. Granted, with the caveat that it does not violate some social norm that is illegal, or excuse me, let me be clear. With the caveat that it is not illegal content, and with the caveat that it is not content that is contrary to national security, we should be able to consume content that is broad and expansive and that is coming from different places. And I think what is happening, ladies and gentlemen, is that there is speech that is being censored, that we are not being able to impart ideas. So, for example, sometimes we aren't able to put our ideas out there for other people to listen to and for other people to hear and for other people to watch. And in a sense, I think that is a way in which, or when that happens, that essentially what is going on is speech is being stifled and censored. It's chilling speech because people aren't able to hear that. And so if people aren't able to hear what we're putting out or see what we're putting out, then it's like we're not putting out anything at all. And it's the same thing with TikTok. Now, there is a lot of opinions that I'm hearing online. Some people think that it has to do with the conflict in Palestine, and that's the reason why this app was, or TikTok was, that the government decided that it didn't want it, or the government decided that it wanted TikTok to divest. But ladies and gentlemen, that does not make sense, right? When we think about it clearly, because if TikTok is the ByteDance is a Chinese-based country, and if China wanted to, and I'm just thinking this out, and you can tell me if you feel that I'm wrong about this. I think if China wanted to deliver propaganda over an app, it didn't have to use that conflict to do so, because that conflict was everywhere. I mean, it was all over the media. It was on YouTube. It was on Instagram. It was on Facebook. It was everywhere. It's out in the streets when people are protesting. It's in schools. It's everywhere. So it didn't need this medium to issue any propaganda about the conflict in Gaza. That's my personal opinion. This was everywhere. Like if you go outside, there were protests every week. If you go into the university, there is signs all on the bulletin boards. If you turn on the for some of you, if you have televisions or a flat screen, turn on the flat screen, turn on the news, you'll read something that something's going to come across your screen about it. If you look on YouTube, you're going to see something. So other social media apps, you're going to see something. So I don't think that that was the platform, the medium that was used to get us to shape our opinions and our beliefs about this conflict. Now, some people do believe that, and I respect their opinion 100%. But I just don't believe that. I think this more so has to do with the government and how it feels about dissent. The dissent of its citizens and citizens speaking out against human rights abuses, be whatever they may be. And it's not limited to a specific conflict. Now, people are limiting it to that conflict, but I think that it has to do with just speech in general and citizens speaking out against government wrongdoing. And what else did I hear? I mean, I heard that. I think that that was like the number one thing that I heard, right? And so, and some of this, some of the people that I listened to that, like, I heard that. What else did I hear? Yeah. I don't know, ladies and gentlemen. I told you that I feel like the US is moving toward totalitarianism, and I hope that I'm wrong about this, but we see with the issuance of the executive orders that Trump meted out, it does appear to be that way. It does appear to be going in that direction. Now, there are a couple of executive orders that are very, um, that are, in my personal opinion, that do go against human rights principles, but I'm not going to be talking about that yet because I'm waiting to see exactly how those um, executive orders unfold. I know that two of those, the ones that I really want to speak about, are going to be challenged in courts pretty soon. And I kind of want to see like what the US Supreme Court is going to say about those specific executive orders and how there's going to be a response. One of those executive orders, there, what's enshrined in it is um, or so one of the executive orders, there is a battle with the Constitution, and then the other is a battle with identity. And so I want to see exactly how the courts are going to deal with this. We already understand the Trump administration's position on these two executive orders. It's just important to see how these are going to unfold in the upcoming days, if not weeks. And I'm going to wait to see, what happens with that before I give some commentary on that. But what do you think? Do you think that TikTok is going to divest from ByteDance? Do you think that TikTok should sell the American portion of it? Do you think that it should sell? Do you think that the algorithm would be the same? Will the users that are on TikTok now, will they still have the same impact if it sells it to an American corporation? Do you think that this is a way the government is trying to censor all of our speech and all of our content, or do you think that the government is genuinely trying to protect us? These are all questions that are important. good to really know the answers to these questions. And I have to be honest, I have my personal opinion, but I really would like to know exactly what you feel about this. And also, do you think that this is going to be a legal battle for TikTok? Do you think that this is going to be, or better yet, do you think that TikTok is going to hold out, or do you think that TikTok is going to settle? Do you think that TikTok is going to eventually sell? It's not going to put up a fight under the Trump administration. That's a good question. I want to know the answer. And there you have it. This has been an episode of the Quianna Canada podcast. You can follow me on Facebook. I'm going to link my Facebook account in the description of this video. My Facebook account is not showing up in the search results, and I think that that's just because I have some cyber hackers that are actually suppressing a lot of my content. And so I will link that Facebook account in the description of this particular video. I'm also going to attach a couple of articles that I wrote on this TikTok situation and my personal opinion on it. I think that this move that the United States is making will put it on the list of censored nations, but I could be wrong. Maybe the United States won't be put on the list of censored nations. We know things are different in the West when the West is engaged in a human rights violation. They're not always held responsible. And so I will attach those articles too in the description. And let's see, what else will I attach? I think that that's going to be enough for you to review. And so you've already uh, gained kind of like an understanding about what's going on with this app. And so, if there are any updates, maybe I will cover it again. And there you have it. We will talk to you next time. Bye bye.